So it is finally the end of 2015, and this year has offered us a lot of great films. That's what I'm going to talk about today. My 10 favorite movies from this past year. Note that I haven't seen all the films that came out. People rave about Ex Machina and Straight Outta Compton. I didn't get the chance to see them. And not to give away where I live or anything, but I live in a place where the indie Oscar kind of movies come out in January or February of the next year. So I haven't seen quite a few of those. Movies like Steve Jobs, Trumbo, Spotlight, The Revenant, they all look amazing, but I won't be able to see them for a bit. When I have seen them, I'll make a video reviewing them all, but for now, I can only talk about the films I've seen, so let's get into it. Number 10, Avengers Age of Ultron. I know, I'm surprised myself. If you had told me a year ago that Age of Ultron would only be number 10 on my best of the year list, I would have knocked all your teeth out. But I guess that's just how it ended up. The action in this was spectacular. The action scene that stands out to me is easily Hulk vs. Hulkbuster. Seeing the cast back together was great. The hammer lifting scene was the best scene of the film just based on the actors' chemistry. This had one of the best Marvel villains to date. It introduced us to 3 new interesting characters. It was a lot of fun. For me, it wasn't as incredible as the first film, but it's pretty hard to be as good as my second favorite movie of all time. Still, this was on the whole a really enjoyable summer blockbuster.
Tear these things apart. You get hurt, hurt them back. You get killed, walk it off.
Number 9, The Walk. This was the film this year that really reminded me why I love movies. It was such a fun, larger-than-life escape from reality, and I personally loved it. Now, when people talk about this film, they're mostly going to be talking about those final 45 minutes where Joseph Gordon-Levitt walks between the Twin Towers. And yes, that was amazing and kind of mind-blowing, and it's easily one of my favorite scenes of the entire year, but I actually thought the rest of the film was really entertaining as well. It was lighthearted, and it had an interesting style, and the build-up to that climax was really tense. This was simply put one of the best cinema experiences I had all year. Number 8, Ant-Man, which surprisingly ended up higher than Avengers 2. Now, do I think Ant-Man was a perfect superhero movie? I wouldn't go that far. But was it still a really fun time at the movies? Hell yeah. The cast was great, the visual effects and action were fantastic. It was really funny, Michael Pena was awesome.
Of course, I asked him, did Emily tell Carlos to tell you to get to me what kind of safe it was? And he says, nah, dog. All she said is that it's like super legit, and whatever's in it, it's gotta be good. What?
And it had its own style, which is what I really like to see in these kinds of movies. Something new. I've had enough buildings being destroyed and super strong people battling each other through an entire city. Showing a super epic battle happening on a Thomas the Tank Engine train set was hilarious and unique. Ant-Man showed a small and really interesting corner of the MCU, and while I still would have liked to see Edgar Wright's version, what we got was extremely enjoyable. Number 7, Spy. Now this may come as a surprise to some that Spy is up here on the list, but I have to say, with the exception of possibly my number 2 pick, I didn't laugh as hard in any other movie this year as I did in Spy. Not only is it a really funny comedy, but it's also a really exciting action movie. I didn't know Paul Feig can do action, but yeah, he totally can. All the performances are good. Melissa McCarthy really just ends up playing who she always plays, but still, you gotta admit, she's pretty great at it. Jude Law is good as a stereotypical spy. Miranda Hart was funny as the sidekick. Rose Byrne was perfect as the villain, and of course, Jason Statham was hilarious. His scenes were where I lost it, where I was actually crying from laughing so hard. Overall, this is definitely one of the best comedies of the year. Number 6, Star Wars The Force Awakens. This was a movie that I was almost a bit nervous going into. If this was bad, the movie industry would more or less have been thrown into chaos. But luckily, I'm happy to report that Star Wars Episode 7 was a hell of a lot of fun. The characters were great, both old and new. The action was amazing, and when I said this about Guardians of the Galaxy way back when, the action is cool and is what I hope the new Star Wars movie has. This was exactly what I had in mind. This was made for Star Wars fans, but can be enjoyed pretty much just as much by a casual viewer. Also, seeing Harrison Ford actually having fun in a movie is always a joy to watch. Number 5, Inside Out. If you've seen some of my other videos, you know that I love Pixar. They've made a lot of my favorite animated films, they've made me laugh and cry, they're great, but even I have to admit that they'd been slipping recently. So this could have either been the final nail in the coffin or the triumphant return. And since it's number 5 on my list, you can probably guess which one it was. This movie was so creative. It might just be the most creative film of the year. You can tell with this film. It wasn't made just for the merchandise, just to sell toys and lunchboxes. It was made because the people behind it had a genuinely interesting and great idea, and they wanted to share it with the world. It's just so clever in every aspect. You have to see the movie to get what I'm saying. The comedy also really works, the sad parts really work, and it has some of the best casting of the year.
Congratulations, San Francisco! You've ruined pizza. First the Hawaiians, and now you.
Number 4, Mission Impossible Rogue Nation. Primarily, I go to the movies to have fun, especially in the summer, and this is one of the most fun movies I've seen in a while. Tom Cruise is the definitive movie star. It's like The Rock, Tom Cruise, Chris Pratt. Those are the 3 main movie stars for me. This film starts off with the biggest stunt, and yet still manages to hold that level of entertainment throughout. It has a great new addition to the Mission Impossible franchise. Alec Baldwin's great, all of the action set pieces are creative and exciting. I was never bored when watching this. This might be the best Mission Impossible movie. Also, after watching this, you won't get that theme song out of your head for at least a week. Number 3, The Martian. This was also one of the best cinema experiences I had this year. The Martian was fantastic, not just because it had spectacular visuals and an interesting story, but also because it was fun. After Interstellar and to a lesser degree Gravity, it was refreshing to see a space movie that wasn't all sad and depressing. There were a lot of funny moments, and Matt Damon absolutely carried this movie. The rest of the cast was fantastic as well, but if it weren't for Matt Damon's humor and charisma, this would fall apart really quickly. Also, this film has one of my favorite movie quotes from 2015.
I'm gonna have to science the shit out of this.
Number 2, Kingsman: The Secret Service. Yeah, in case you can't tell by now, I'm a pretty big fan of the spy genre. Matthew Vaughn is one of my favorite directors. I love more or less all of his movies, and this, I would say, is my favorite. It's got everything I would want. Great performances, great music, great humor, great ending. It's also a really good spoof of the spy genre, poking fun at the tropes and cliches and using them for the plot. The action is of course amazing, and I will go on record saying that church scene is my favorite scene from any movie in 2015. Kingsman overall was amazing, and I can't wait for the sequel. Now before I reveal my number 1, here are some other movies I saw this year that I thought were pretty good, but just couldn't make the list. Jurassic World. While this film has a lot of flaws, it's undeniably a lot of fun, with great moments, great effects, and one hell of a climax. Furious 7. It's really dumb, but really fun. New tagline for the next film. For this movie, just get a few of your friends over, get some popcorn out, and turn your brain off. You'll have a pretty great time. Also, I wasn't expecting to tear up at the end of a Fast and Furious film. The Man from U.N.C.L.E. A pretty fun spy film with a great soundtrack and good performances. It was just way too long. Bridge of Spies. It was a tiny bit slow, but Steven Spielberg still pulled through and made one of the most interesting dramas I've seen in a while. Legend. This was a very stylized, interesting, and violent biopic that I had a really good time with. The only reason it didn't make the list is because it was sort of oddly paced, and the tone was a bit all over the place, but it was still a cool movie. And Tom Hardy is excellent in this. You completely forget he's both characters, and I think he deserves an Oscar.
You hit me.
Yeah.
And here it is. My favorite film of the year is Mad Max Fury Road. This was a film that, like Kingsman, I wasn't exactly that excited for. But after hearing so many good things about it, I went out, saw it, and I had the most fun in a cinema I've had maybe since the first Avengers. When a movie does this good of a job of just entertaining you for 2 hours straight, just complete adrenaline all the way through, it deserves to be number 1. Of course, as if it needs to be said, the action is completely amazing in this. Nothing in other action movies today holds up to the real-life practical explosions and fights in this film. Sure, there's some CGI, but it's used sparingly, and when it's there, it's for the most part really great. The action is also quite creative. Like, they have this guy who plays a guitar that shoots fire, and they actually incorporate him in an action scene. Also, if you couldn't tell from this guy, this film is completely insane. The performances are great, Tom Hardy's awesome as Max, Charlize Theron is badass as Furiosa, and Nicholas Hoult as Nux was probably the most interesting character. Sure, this movie doesn't have the world's greatest plot, or the most incredible and deep characters, or an ending that people will debate for years to come, but no other movie in 2015 took me on an awesome ride the same way Mad Max Fury Road did. So those were my 10 favorite movies of 2015. What were yours? Be sure to let me know in the comments. Also, I'd just like to say, now that it's the end of the year, at the beginning of this year, I had something like 150 subscribers, and now, 1 year later, it's over 6,000. So I'd just like to say, genuinely, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.